The Trump administration is asking the Supreme Court to immediately reinstate its executive order banning travelers from 6 mostly Muslim countries. The move comes about a week after the Fourth Circuit Court ruled against the administration. The president wants to ban immigration from Syria, Libya, Sudan, Yemen, Somalia, and Iran. CBS News Justice reporter Paula Reid joins me now from Washington to break all this down. Paula, thanks so much. So what's your reaction to this motion being filed?
This is not really a surprise. I mean, from the time of the original travel ban, the president has been promising to take this to the Supreme Court. And after this specific decision that was appealed, the one in the Fourth Circuit, the Attorney General made it clear he wasn't pleased and that he would ask the Supreme Court to take a look. But Erica, what was a little bit surprising to me is that they filed this appeal late last night before the Ninth Circuit over on the West Coast, before that court has issued their final ruling on the travel ban. I expected that they would probably wait until both sides of the country, the Fourth Circuit on the East Coast, the Ninth Circuit on the West Coast, until both of those appellate courts had come to a decision. But the Department of Justice knows that it is not expected to win in the Ninth Circuit, so it seems they just wanted to get the ball rolling.
What exactly is the administration arguing?
They have consistently been arguing that the travel ban was squarely within the president's authority to protect the country, specifically to protect the country from these 6 nations where they believe the governments are not stable enough, that they are not reliable enough to provide accurate information when they're trying to vet people coming into the United States. In this 365-page appeal last night, they argue that it is unprecedented for courts to speculate about the president's motives or anyone's motives in this kind of policy and to strike it down based on that speculation. They argue that this policy is religion neutral and should be upheld.
All right, and so what's the flip side argument?
Well, the argument that has consistently prevailed in the courts has been the opposition, which argues that national security is just sort of a front for making good on a promise to ban Muslims from coming here to the United States. You know that expression, your words can and will be used against you? Well, Erica, that's exactly what continues to happen to the president here. The opposition takes the order, but then provides context, statements from the president himself, his press secretary, and they say, look, if you take this order in that context, it is clearly religious discrimination. And in the Fourth Circuit, this judge, one of the ruling judges, said specifically, even though this order, quote, speaks with vague words of national security, the context drips with religious intolerance, animus, and discrimination. And that is why the Trump administration has not succeeded so far.
Do you think his tweets could actually be used as evidence against his argument?
In this case, I can't recall a tweet specifically, but certainly campaign statements, tweets would be the same. If you have an order and they're trying to argue that you did this to discriminate based on religion, if they're using your own words and then subsequently the words of your press secretary commenting on the travel ban as being basically you making good on a campaign promise, that does not help your case. And yes, tweets are just as dangerous, if you will, in court, if you want to try to argue something is purely based on national security, but you're perhaps tweeting with something that suggests discrimination or religious animus.
Interesting. Meanwhile, we have heard that he has got lawyers that are supposedly vetting those tweets, although I don't know if that's actually started happening yet. All right, so what happens next?
So what happens next is the Supreme Court has to answer a few questions. The first is whether or not they want to have the other side weigh in. It's very likely they're going to ask the other side to send in some briefs and submit their arguments. Then the court needs to decide, will they reinstate the travel ban? Now, that's highly unlikely, Erica, because so far, almost uniformly, these courts have decided to keep the travel ban on hold while they determine whether or not it's constitutional. And then lastly, the court needs to decide whether or not it wants to hear arguments on this particular case. And again, the Ninth Circuit, there's still a big outstanding appeal on this travel ban question on the West Coast. That decision hasn't been issued yet. So the Supreme Court may wait until the Ninth Circuit rules, or it may not. It may just decide whether or not it wants to lift the freeze on the travel ban and whether or not it wants to hear arguments without waiting for the Ninth Circuit. It remains to be seen.
All right, we will be watching. Thank you so much, CBS News Justice reporter Paula Reid.